who live there, and they love Cleveland, and they love it because they're helping make it good. They support the sports teams, and they eat in the restaurants, and they tell you that we're making sure it keeps going. So I don't know, but I think it's an important difference between leadership and people who follow and people who join feeling equal. And there's always a hierarchy, so no, we're never going to be equal. But God forbid we should be socialists. That would be that's the new thing in America. Everyone's only the Democrats are socialists, and that's horrible. Going to be another Venezuela. I just know it. Yeah. So silly.
Archana, did you have something for Dal?
Yeah, just one follow-up question from there, Dal. As you said, people do feel in Cleveland that they are making it work. Have you had any conversation with them where they could reflect on, but in the past that wasn't the case, now we feel like we are more responsible, or that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so can you reflect on that a bit?
Cleveland had a reputation. It was called the mistake on the lake. Cleveland's pollution was so bad in 1984 that the Cuyahoga River caught on fire.
Wow.
And that's where the American Environmental Protection Agency was born, because of the fire on the river of the Cuyahoga River in Cleveland, Ohio. There was a point when it was simply a former steel became part of what was called the Rust Belt in America, because there was no work. I will say that one of the saving graces to Cleveland is that at one point it was the shining star of America. Half of all the millionaires in America lived in Cleveland at the turn of the century. Rockefeller, Carnegie are both from Cleveland. There's old money, old intelligence, old forces at work, and that helps. But Cleveland went to a place where it was just a joke. It was a joke. And the people who live there still are very self-deprecating. They're still very much, but we still live in Cleveland, the river doesn't catch on fire anymore, but there's still some problems, but we're making it better.
Yeah.
And so they took it from this past that was really quite terrible. The perception, at least, was really probably worse than it really was. But most of Cleveland was closed for business. Much of downtown Cleveland was boarded up as recently as 10 years ago. And this turnaround has happened. This new revitalization has happened. Part of it is that the Cleveland Clinic, which employs 50,000 people in the city of Cleveland, Cleveland Clinic came in and was just an inspiration for people, because it was a huge successful business that came there, employed a lot more people, began training programs. They just did it right. Involved the community from absolutely day one to make them as welcome as they could be, and from both directions. The city embraced them, they embraced the city. That helped a lot. But it wasn't all economics at all. People stepped up. They started improving their properties. Suddenly property value went up. People became very proud of their neighborhoods. The neighborhoods in Cleveland are very specialized. And the mayor and the city have increased and encouraged specialized neighborhoods. I love that. And not just by ethnic. It used to always be by ethnic. There was Little Italy, Little Germany, Little Poland, and you had restaurants and people who lived there who spoke the language. That was the beginning. But now you have districts where there's art and antiques, and there's something else. There's a lot of art in Cleveland right now. They do a lot of dynamic art. They're working on an equivalent to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival that will take place this next year for the first time in Cleveland, where they've invited hundreds of theater companies to come there over a month and produce. There'll be plays on the street corners. There'll be plays in every facility you can put a play. It's a massive undertaking. The city's helping to underwrite it. The city's wildly excited about it. The city did the Gay Games as a way to show the Republican National Convention that they could handle large groups of people. And now the thought that the Gay Games and the Republican National Convention had any relationship to each other is just frightening in America. But that's what happened. But the city had the vision to say, let's show you with this that we can do that. And they ended up doing both. So it's just been fascinating to watch it literally in the last 10 years, 15 years, the turnaround from an absolutely negative sense of your own city and its own impending doom because everyone thought it was just going to die to this vibrant, crazy, fun place. Anyway,
thanks. Yeah, that's very very good to know, and also equally fascinating how it has turned around in such a short time.
Yes.
I did follow you when you went to the Gay Games in Cleveland, and that was it was quite amazing.
It was amazing, and I helped do that because I was the site inspector for the world, so we had to choose between 3 American cities: Boston, Washington, D.C., and Cleveland. And I fought very hard because Boston and Washington, D.C., no one would know we were there. But Cleveland was this place, and the laws changed. The city stepped up. It was crazy to watch what happened. It was such a revitalization of hope and excitement in the city when this happened. And who would think in the middle of the Midwest United States in a small town, Cleveland's not a very big town, that first of all they would bid on that to get it, and the city would step up and do so much. And to this day, that they're doing all sorts of things there that are quite remarkable. So,
Thank you.
I like the place.
I can tell.
Look, other people have mentioned this too, Archana, right? In the course of our interviews, other people have raised Cleveland as an alternative to what's going on in Anchorage.
Yes. Well, probably because I talk about it so much, everyone in Anchorage knows about Cleveland.
Oh, so you're the link, okay.
I think so. I think I might be.
So, Dale, if I share with you our trajectory, where we think we're going, we at the moment are interviewing what we call emerging leaders as well. What became apparent was that a lot of our sample was established leadership in Anchorage. And they, in fact, had suggested to us to also get data on these sorts of questions from emerging leaders and then do a compare and contrast. So we're in that phase at the moment of interviewing emerging leaders. After all of that, where we think we're headed is potentially to run polarity workshops in Anchorage. And the polarity workshops would be an introduction of the concept, and then using the specific data of these contextual issues in Anchorage, how a polarity perspective would offer an alternative approach to that. And then after that, then discussing wellbeing as a framework and polarities within it. And the mission is to fertilise what we would call a polarity consciousness, in the hope that when this seeps into the mindset of folks and they get used to the concept, and when they perceive the value in seeing the world this way, that organically then they have a different approach to the way they're going about things. So that really is our lever for change in some ways, is a change in the consciousness to understand and work with polarities.
Right.
And we were thinking about doing that via workshops in Anchorage, but getting all the folks that we've interviewed and are interviewing in the same room to have that conversation, because they cut across the sectors of society. That's our current strategic or tactical plan, if you will, for where we plan to take this. That may change, but that's our current thinking.
Okay, and I would temper that a little with try to be as aware of what's happening politically when you're making plans to come here. At this particular moment in time, your message would be lost because people are so they're just nervous about what the next 6 months are going to be, because state budgets are just starting to get worked on. People are figuring out that there might be some huge, if you close 2 college campuses out of 4 in the state, the repercussions of what they're talking about right now has everyone so overwhelmed that, and I know you're not coming tomorrow to do this, but I think that's, particularly here, I think that's a really important thing to weigh, when you're trying to make the decisions, because you want people to not be so distracted by some